tell you a story about the importance of associations. Some years ago, I was invited by the Kellogg Foundation to go to Europe for a conference of all the countries that had been formed after the Soviet Union collapsed. The Kellogg Foundation had worked in those countries to start various kinds of health initiatives. So these were people who were involved in the health field in countries such as Moldova, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, and I think there were people from 11 or 12 of these countries that had once been a part of the Soviet Union. And the Kellogg Foundation had asked me to try to open up the idea of civil society and to talk with them about the nature of associational life and the kinds of functions that associations could perform. The reason being that in the Soviet Union they had suppressed almost all associational life. So I had these people in a room one morning, and I began an effort to describe to them what associations were and the kinds of functions that they performed and why they're so important to democracy and voluntary participation. And I could tell that I was not being very successful. I tried several ways and they looked at me rather blankly. And then finally, one man held up his hand. Actually, he was from Poland. And he said, "Oh, Mr. McKnight, I know what you mean." He says, "You keep using this word association, and we don't know what that is." He says, "But what you mean, now that I understand what you're telling us about, is a conspiracy. For us, what you're talking about is a conspiracy." He said, "Associations that you talk about were always illegal for us." And so it's very interesting to understand that our wonderful ability to create and use associations to build our communities and our democracy would be thought of as a conspiracy in other countries that were totalitarian. And I think that's why the Founding Fathers in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, say that the primary values are freedom of speech and freedom of association, and the government may not in any way interfere with those two powers.